get up on the straight here. There we go, let's try it. Woo! See, ultra fast, but not a lot of action on the wheelies. This, my friends, as you all know, is the legendary Kawasaki ZZR1400. It has an epic 210 maximum horsepower at the crank and a monstrous 160 Newton meters of torque. But ever since I have owned this amazing motorcycle, it's always left me wondering, where the hell are the wheelies? Let's find out. Yeah, this has been a question that has always baffled me about this bike, guys. It has kind of like some of the biggest performance numbers you can get on a motorcycle, and there aren't any wheelies, you know? It's kind of baffling. But, I mean, we're going to try explaining why that is the case, but also I want to try my best to actually put a few power wheelies. So if you didn't know, on this bike you just press the select button to move across from the traction control on the power modes. Now, just in case you didn't know, for Kawasaki motorcycles the traction control is also the wheelie control. So if you want to make sure that the ECU isn't playing silly buggers with you whenever you're trying to pull some sick wheelies, well, could be because you've got the traction control on. I'm not sure if that's kind of like the same with all brands. I don't think it is. I think some brands have the wheelie control separate from the traction control. So yeah, might be worth doing a little bit of research if you're wondering where your wheelies are, because there are bikes out there that are smaller, less horsepower, significantly less horsepower, significantly less torque, and yet they can pull wheelies like they were absolutely nothing. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, but I mean, just giving the throttle a bit of a wiggle there in second gear didn't produce all that much, really. This is the full power mode, traction control off. So yeah, this is a bit of an odd one, guys. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a bit of an odd one, because I mean, let's take the ZX2 as a prime example. That thing is an absolute wheelie monster. It loves to pull wheelies in first, second, even third, perhaps fourth, depending on how aggressive you are on the throttle. The ZX2 absolutely loves pulling wheelies, but this bike doesn't, and I think to some extent that's a really good thing, because then it stops yobbos like me from trying to do stupid things. But I mean, when you think about this from the perspective of what this bike was made for, to go fast in a straight line, well, wheelies are not what you want. You want that front end to be right down. You want it to be sticking to the ground the whole time when you're trying to do 0 to 60s, 0 to 100s, quarter miles. You really, really want that front end down, because all that power that you're generating, all the downforce that you're generating from the fairing and all that, well, ain't gonna happen. If you put in wheelies, you're not gonna get that downward effect. So yeah, wheelies are kind of a bad thing when it comes to just raw speed, but at the same time, like I've said before, they're really cool. They're really, really effing cool. I love wheelies. I wish I was better at them, but alas, I am pretty poor at pulling wheelies. So I mean, let's take this video with a grain of salt here, because I'm not very good at pulling wheelies. You guys know I'm not very good at pulling wheelies. I've admitted that before in the past. I'm trying to get more confident. I'm trying to get a bit more practice in, especially around clutch ups. I mean, that's one thing I should probably mention here. When I'm talking about wheelies on this bike, I'm talking about throttle ups. Yeah, just power wheelies. Because let's be honest, when you're getting over 100 horsepower on a motorcycle or 100 Newton meters of torque, then you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to be able to pull wheelies on that bike just using the throttle. Pretty much guaranteed. but not on this bike. Not sure about the Hayabusa, but I'm sure that it's probably a very similar issue with the Hayabusa. But that's the thing, guys, I've never ever... Woo! It's still fun as hell, man. Still fun as hell pulling back the throttle on this bike, regardless of whether you're pulling a wheelie. It's absolutely wicked. I love it. And I have seen wheelies done before on this bike as well. I've seen them done on drag races and things, so it is doable. It's absolutely doable on this bike. But for me, my riding style, how aggressive I am on the throttle or on the clutch, it doesn't happen for me. And that's the thing, I think for most people, this is what it's going to be like, you know? I think for most riders, this is going to be the experience that you're going to have. It's going to be a really rock solid two wheels on the ground experience for you, even though you're doing 100 miles an hour before you even know it. And I suppose it kind of depends on the kind of riding you like to do. I mean, this kind of riding I absolutely love, but I also love the riding experience that the ZX2 gives me, and arguably the ZX2 is even more fun than the ZZR. And that seems crazy to say, but I think comparing the two, the ZX2 I think is a more fun experience. But that doesn't take anything away from the ZZR either. This bike is absolutely awesome. It's such an epic machine. Especially if you're looking for a little bit more baggage storage and, you know, a bit more of a sport touring kind of experience, I suppose, with a load of elements of sport bike involved as well. Yeah, absolutely wickedly good fun. Yeah, I wouldn't trade this for anything. I don't care. But yeah, it would have been nice if, I said this before in our video on the changes I wish Kawasaki had made to this motorcycle, I would have absolutely loved to have seen maybe a little bit more torque down low. Maybe just a little bit more, just so you can pick up that front end a little bit every once in a while if you wanted to. At the sacrifice of top speed, maybe that would be okay for me. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen that, just so that you can get that front end up. But there's one other big problem with this bike when it comes to wheelies, and I say it's a problem, it actually is the exact opposite of a problem. And that's the wheelbase. It has a longer wheelbase than a lot of other motorcycles out there. So putting wheelies on it, you're already fighting physics in that regard, because you've got a longer pivot point. So it's going to be a lot harder pulling wheelies on a motorcycle that has a longer wheelbase than one that's got a shorter wheelbase. Yeah, it's just physics. So yeah, that's another thing that this bike will have to contend with. But like I said, guys, it is possible. It is possible. It's just me. I'm just not aggressive enough. But then on the ZX2, you don't have to be all that aggressive to be putting wheelies, you know? And you kind of feel like you're in a bit more control of the bike, I feel, you know? If you're a little bit more in control of the bike, you can pick up the front end, you know, at lower RPMs, lower speed. It kind of makes it a bit more, I don't know, it feels a bit safer to do, I suppose, from my perspective, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean, it's such an awesome experience, this bike, anyway, nonetheless. And I have been able to pull little wheelies on this bike every once in a while. Really teeny tiny wheelies, but they're really nothing, nothing to brag about, absolutely not. But yeah, I mean, I have been hunting for wheelies on this bike before. Okay, well, there was a little bit of a front end kick that came up there in first gear. But I have seen people in the comments before kind of bragging about how they're putting wheelies in fifth gear and stuff, and like, nah, they're probably lying to you. Maybe first, second, maybe even third if you're really ultra aggressive, but absolutely not in fifth. So I mean, I don't know, they might be lying, they might not, but from my experience, from my perspective of running this bike on the daily for the last 2 years, it absolutely does not like to pull wheelies, at least you really got to fish for them. You've really got to fish for them. Clutch ups, I'm sure, are really straightforward, but I mean, that's the thing. I don't like pulling wheelies on this bike anyway, because it's just such a legendary motorcycle that I don't really feel like, I don't feel the need to pull wheelies that often, you know. I don't really feel the point, because it's such a heavy bike already, and even if you just pull a little wheelie and you do it wrong on a bike like this, with all the weight coming crashing down on the forks, you're just asking for trouble with the fork seals. So for me, it's not really worth it, I don't think. Just want to get in front of this bus quickly. Anything, if any, I don't want to be stuck behind that bus, if anything. Just not the bloody buses. But yeah, guys and gals, what do you think? What do you think about this? I mean, a lot of the subscribers that we have are fellow ZZR1400 owners, so let me know in the comments kind of your experience with this bike, and whether or not you've been able to pull wheelies, whether or not you like the fact that pulling wheelies are hard on this bike, because you're obviously able to get more speed in a straight line. You know, it's far more stable when you're on the throttle, and you're on the throttle really hard. Yeah, it's not like the Ninja H2. I don't know, if you guys watch any videos of the Ninja H2 where it's in a drag race, it's almost the exact opposite story to this, where it's just pulling wheelies all the time, and riders have a really difficult time trying to keep the front end down. That's even with all the electronics and stuff. And then you got the ZZR with even wheelie control off, and it still struggles to pull wheelies. Maybe, I don't know, if you lowered the pressure on the rear tire a little bit, then maybe it would be a little bit easier, but I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be too different, really. But yeah, I think, just concluding this video, guys and gals, I think that pulling wheelies on this bike is pretty much reserved for drag racers, the people that are really going to be pushing this bike hard. And even then, controlling it is going to be a hell of a lot easier anyway. If you are one of those people that does drag racing and you are on the drag strip quite often, then the ZZR is probably a really good option for you, because keeping that front end down is going to be surprisingly easy for you. So yeah, wheelies on the ZZR, very hard, but that's a good thing, really. When we think about it, as kind of, as much as it sucks, it's a good thing. Just around the corner here, guys, we will have a chance to try and pull a bit of a wheelie, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I'm not expecting a lot, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. It might be a bit more fruitful than I've had in the past. Yeah, that's one more thing it would have been nice to have on the ZZR is just being able to roll on the throttle to be able to do the wheelies. Because actually, in a lot of cases, you really have to jerk it. You have to jerk the throttle to get that front end up, and I don't like doing that. I like it to be nice and smooth. Higher RPMs, maybe higher RPMs as well. But again, lower RPMs make more sense on the streets, you know. Here we go. Let's get up on the straight here. Try it. Woo! See, ultra fast, but not a lot of action on the wheelies. And I was going 100% on the throttle there, guys. Let's try one more time. There you go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Second gear. No, I did feel a little bump in power towards the mid-range top end, which I think might push you in the direction that you need, but nah, very hard still. Nonetheless, very hard pulling wheelies on this bike, just as I demonstrated. Yeah, it's almost certainly doable in first gear, maybe doable in second gear at higher RPMs, but all in all, very hard. And I would have liked to have seen some more power, a little bit more torque down low, I think. Yeah, without a doubt. But anyway, guys and gals, I think I'm going to call the video here. Thank you ever so much for watching today's video. As I mentioned earlier, let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Let us know your experiences of this bike in the comments. Have you been able to pull wheelies on this bike? Is it easy for you? Let me know in the comments how you've done it and whether or not it's one of those things that you do regularly, or if you just it just kind of happens by accident or something like that. Because I think a lot of times, for me at least, they happen by accident. But yeah, definitely let us know your thoughts in the comments. Hit subscribe, and we will catch you all in the next video, guys and gals. Have a good one.